Answering the challenges of the new century, the United States Air Force is returning to its roots, becoming an Expeditionary Aerospace Force.
It's a mindset that says that we can move very, very rapidly anywhere in the world to affect situations from humanitarian disasters to full-blown conflicts. We have always been expeditionary. In fact, my grandfather was involved with expeditionary operations chasing Pancho Villa in the early teens of this century. We went expeditionary to World War I and World War II. We did it in Korea, we did it in Vietnam. And it was kind of an extraordinary period during the Cold War where we ceased doing that. We are back to our roots. Expeditionary is the Air Force, and that may be redundant, but maybe we need to remind ourselves.
During the Cold War, the Air Force was garrisoned around the world, but overseas bases have been cut by 2/3, personnel reduced by 1/3. Yet missions are still worldwide, leading to a 400% increase in deployments. The increase in ops tempo and frequent and lengthy TDYs have stressed both personnel and equipment.
But yeah, we're still doing Northern Watch, Southern Watch. Who knows what's going to happen with Kosovo? We'll end up having to probably go over and do more peacekeeping stuff over in Kosovo, and we end up going ops tempo everywhere.
You're always hearing about how pilots are getting out, but there's a big move in the maintenance world to get out and go do civilian aircraft maintenance, because just the constant repetition of going over to a place like Al's Garage time and time again, to what end, has caused people to get a little bit disgruntled.
The amount of time that you're gone is an important aspect of ops tempo and of dissatisfaction, but probably even more critical is having it not be predictable when you're going to be gone.
I think that's one of the reasons they leave the Air Force is things are unpredictable, and they want to know, where they'll be in a year or maybe even in 6 months, to not only them personally but to help their families.
It's the sustainment of this op tempo, other than major theater wars, that we tried to address. Big emphasis on making sure our folks were afforded the opportunity to have some predictability in their lives, to be able to sustain that for a long time.
The challenge then is to fulfill a growing variety of missions while making the Air Force a better place to live and work. Answering that challenge begins with the transition to 10 aerospace expeditionary forces within the EAF. Most deployable personnel will be assigned to these AEFs, but these are not the AEFs of the past. The AEFs themselves do not deploy. Each AEF can best be described as a packet of capabilities from the total force that give the AEFs roughly equal ability to handle everything from humanitarian missions to armed conflict. The AEFs will follow a 15-month rotation schedule. Units and individuals in the first 2 AEFs will be deployed or vulnerable for deployment for a shortened rotation starting in October. Then they'll be replaced by 2 other AEFs on a 90-day cycle. When not in that 90-day window, the units will reconstitute, do their regular schooling, training, exercises, taking leave, and getting ready for their next deployment. The AEF schedule will eventually offer affiliated units a chance to train together with an unprecedented level of regularity.
It allows them to do this in a way that they know when they'll be away and when they'll be home, and put some structure into their lives, not just their professional lives, but their private lives, their family lives.
Oh, it looks fantastic on paper, and from the way it looks, once it's reality, I'll be doing the wave, and so will a lot of other people.
If I know when I'm going to be deployed and where to be deployed, I can set my life accordingly, so that'll be beneficial.
Hopefully it will. It would ease the ops tempo and TDY ratio, give us a little more time at home with our families.
Knowing when I'm going to be gone, that's going to be a big help.
You'll know when you're going to deploy, when you're going to come back, and from my point of view, that would be a positive aspect.
The bottom line is that we're not going to train any differently. We're going to continue to do our business the way that we have been for the last however many years.
That may be true for the 33rd, but there is an increased emphasis on all airmen learning expeditionary skills. Even neophyte pilots are being exposed to more than how to handle a stick and rudder.
But what we're going to do is introduce these students to the AEF concept real early in their career, so they're not so naive when they get out there into the operational world. They're going to hear stories about what it's like to build up to a deployment, how to mobilize, how to deploy, what they can expect when they deploy to a unique location, and then what they can expect when they come back home and meet their family again.
The Expeditionary Aerospace Force is a total force concept that utilizes both the Reserve and National Guard more effectively.
I think for the traditional guardsmen, it will have an impact. They'll be able to say, 24 weeks from now, I'm going to go on active duty, and 26 weeks from now, I'll be back off, and I can go about my daily job or schedule vacations, so on.
We'll still be airlifting people here and there in support of other contingencies that's going on throughout the world. It's just going to give us the stability to know that our dates are set, and that's what we can look forward to.
I think it helps us in the planning process because we know when our rotations are going to be, when we're going to be on call, or when we're going to be deployed as part of an AEF package.
But in the end, it's going to be a good thing for the reservists. They're going to be able to see in advance what their TDY opportunities are going to be.
The goal is to keep contingency deployments at no more than 90 days a year, and total TDYs at no more than 120 days for most airmen.
AEF does not change the world environment, and it doesn't change and create 100,000 more people in the Air Force. What it does is allows us to more efficiently handle the taskings that we have. I don't anticipate that it's going to reduce someone's workload down to 90 days and then they can just go home. But it does, actually, I think it will slow the pace down for some people because we get a chance to use people that we've not traditionally been able to use. We're using some of the overseas people that are currently stationed and have other commitments, and they're thrown into the mix with the Expeditionary Forces, the AEFs, and especially using the Guard and Reserve. I think that has been one of the best parts of this, is that we roll them into the fight.
I think the biggest misconception is that once this process is in place, that you're only going to deploy for 90 days out of the year, and that simply isn't true. You still have your regular duties, your exercises that you still have to support, so you're still going to be deploying more than that 90 days.
I think we have to realize that we're still in the Air Force. Our commitment is to go where duty calls us, when duty calls us. This AEF is going to do a lot to reduce the doubt, schedule us for our TDYs, but it's not going to eliminate the Bosnias that flare up and say, we need to pack up and go right now.
I really don't see much of a change going on for any of the guys who already have high ops tempo, like F-16 Block 50s, RJs, AWACS, J-Stars. Anyone who's already pushing 150, 180 days out of the year is probably not going to change much.
I think the biggest misconception about the EAF is that it's going to happen overnight and that people's lives are immediately going to be better. There are still people in the Air Force that will be deployed 200 days a year because of their specialty, because they are so important and there are so few of them.
Those too few include units labeled Low Density High Demand, or LDHD. For these units, AEF op-tempo goals are not obtainable immediately. Near term, we focus on improving predictability and stability. Over time, the AEF structure will guide policies and investments that will reduce operational tempo for those units most heavily tasked.
We've always been an expeditionary force, and due to our manning and our taskings, I don't think it'll change anything in the present or in the future.
Well, the transition probably won't mean a lot to us. We're a specialized mission platform, and we're pretty much in demand by all the sinks. And so when anything happens in the world, they want AWACS to be there. And so we're probably going to stay on the road about as much as we do right now.
Keeping units on the road on a more predictable schedule will help the Air Mobility Command in the conduct of its vital operations. With air-to-air refueling perfected and giant cargo planes capable of landing almost anywhere, airlifting AEF units to trouble spots can be accomplished on a few hours' notice.
It will make Air Mobility Command's pilots or air crews' lives maybe slightly more predictable, because you at least can have a schedule of when units are going to rotate, so you know for sure you're going to be surging or busy at that time.
Two other major units, though not part of the AEFs, will be impacted immediately: the Crisis Response Aerospace Expeditionary Wings. They're on a 90 days on, 90 days off schedule and will not normally deploy against steady state requirements.
We're going to be an on-call AEW. In the plan, there's two on-call AEWs, 366 Wing and Mountain Home and the 4th Fighter Wing. And we'll be, the analogy that's been used is we're the 911 guys. So we'll be on call for 90 days, and then we'll be basically off call and training for 90 days, and then back on call for 90 days. And if the chief needs us, then we'll go wherever he needs us to go.
So we very seldom deploy, but it's extremely important on what we do back here as far as supporting the people that actually do employ out there in the field.
Expeditionary combat support is an essential part of the team. In the past, the ECS contribution was overlooked or understated. Though still a work in progress, the AEF schedule will offer important predictability and stability benefits to these critical combat enablers. This will be achieved with additional manpower authorizations and by packaging most individual TDY requirements into larger groups and teams. This teaming schedule will begin in March of 2000. The transition to the AEFs will not always be smooth, but the senior leadership is fully committed to the new structure.
And the Air Force needs to make that same commitment that we will stick to this AEF schedule unless there's a crisis where we're at war. You know, we will flex from this, and we're committed to doing that. But if it's not, if it's just your rolling deployments, the commitment has to be there for the leadership to support it, or else it won't work.
Sticking to the schedule. We have laid out the schedule and told our folks in a day-to-day operation, here's where we're going to expect to have your contribution. And moving around that schedule will be a very, very good measure of how well we're doing in this operation. I will use it, and it will require a very, very high level in the Air Force to alter it, to substitute in it.
It's no secret the Air Force is smaller and more heavily tasked than ever before. This new structure is designed to allow the force to do what it can with what it has and not be overextended, and allows Air Force planners to articulate both the capabilities and the limitations of the force in support of the nation's foreign policy objectives.
This is not a Mike Ryan concept. This is not a Whit Peters concept. It's a concept that's bought into by the leadership of the Air Force and understood by all our other services too. If you want us to increase operations here, then somewhere over here you have to ask us to decrease operations because we can't sustain this. The Sinks understand that too. We've briefed all the Sinks, and they understand it intellectually, and they understand conceptually how we're going to implement it. So there's no pushback on this. This is a concept whose time has come, and that's October 1st.